Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. My name is Councillor Ian Wingfield. I'm the chair of the committee. Before we start the meeting, I've just got a few housekeeping announcements to make. There were no planned fire alarm tests this evening, so if you hear the fire alarm, please leave by the nearest fire exit and make your way to the agreed assembly point, which is St John's Churchyard off Druid Street. Council security staff will be available to direct you. Public toilets are located off the main reception area. Please switch your mobile phones to silent whilst in the meeting. Evening. The meeting is being live streamed to the Southwark Council YouTube channel. A recording of the meeting will also be viewable on YouTube once the meeting has concluded. May I remind members to raise your hand if you wish to speak, and please wait until I've given you permission to do so before contributing. When the chair speaks, other members should stop speaking and not interrupt the chair. Members can ask questions and make recommendations on any issue under discussion. Please could members and officers also ensure that they keep the microphone close and speak directly into it. And we have had issues in the past about sound levels. Members of the public are welcome to record, screenshot or post the public proceedings of the meeting. A copy of the Council's protocol for reporting and filming is available on the Southwark website. Apologies. I've received apologies for this evening from Councillor Stephanie Cryan, Martin Brecknell, the Education Cooperative member, also Councillors Hicks, Seaton, Chamberlain and Abacha. Councillor Johnson is on her way. So, if we just go around the room and please introduce yourselves. Councillor Van Wiese.
Councillor Irina Van Wiese, Borough and Bankside and Vice Chair of this committee.
Thank you. Councillor Autry.
Councillor Jason Autry, St Giles, Camborne.
Councillor Roberts.
Councillor Bethan Roberts, Rotherhithe.
And Councillor Leeming.
Councillor Leeming, Dulwich Village.
Thank you all. Notification of any items of business which the Chair deems urgent. You will have the Cabinet consultation with OSC on the proposed budget formulation of scrutiny recommendations. As members will recall, we agreed to defer consideration of the recommendations from yesterday to today, and printed copies have been provided. I would ask that only members who were present at the meeting yesterday take part in discussion while we're all here, so that's no problem. Item 3, disclosure of interest and dispensations. Has anybody got any interest or dispensation to declare in respect of any item on the agenda? Same as yesterday, Richard, or?
Same as yesterday, yes.
Okay, fair enough. Jolly good. Just checking. Okay, so we've got the Cabinet consultation with OSC on the proposed budget. I'm varying the order of business on the agenda to take this item first. And we have the Strategic Director of Resources, Clive Pelfreyman, here. Would you like to step forward and just state your name and position for the record before we begin?
Thank you, Mark. I've just done that, Chair. But Clive Pelfreyman, Strategic Director of Resources. Good to see you again.
Yes, well, we have to get it formally on the recording. Did you want to say anything before we progress on this?
No, it follows on from yesterday's discussion, doesn't it?
Okay, thank you very much. So a list of recommendations have been circulated to all members arising from yesterday's discussion. I don't know if anybody wants to discuss any of those or to add any other amendments on top. Councillor Van Wiese.
Not having had the chance to review this list of recommendations in more detail, we have a few further recommendations from the Liberal Democrat group, which I am the only one representing here tonight, which we have not circulated yet, but I am happy to read out.
Okay.
If you would like me to.
So, and then send it electronically.
Certainly.
To Amit, if you don't mind.
There are only 4 of them, I'm happy to report. So the first one is further to our discussions yesterday on council tax increases impacting the cost of living. This committee recommends Southwark investigate the feasibility of further expanding and fine-tuning council tax reduction rates and eligibility. expanding support where possible. The second recommendation is based on the Equalities Impact Assessment on fees and charges, which notes the negative impact on equality and diversity. The committee believes that the Cabinet should review whether all the above inflation increases are necessary, even when they have a disproportionate effect on vulnerable groups and those with protected characteristics. Okay. Number 3, as the Council relies more heavily on temporary accommodation, the committee recommends that the Council performs additional spot checks on all, and I emphasize all, temporary accommodation to ensure that the Council is achieving value for money and providing appropriate accommodation. And then the last one, committee suggests that the Council sets aside funding in order to roll out local hubs or so-called one-stop shops across the borough to allow residents to access Council services where they are and on their terms. The negative equalities impacts of the rise of Council services, as residents would be able to access support more quickly rather than waiting until a situation declines. And that's it.
Okay, thank you.
So there may be duplication with what you have circulated, at which point I'm sure we will be able to synchronize those.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just on the first one, the council, can you just repeat that again, because I wasn't quite clear.
Yes, certainly. So this is on the CTR council tax reduction schemes. We would like to see OSC recommend Southwark investigate the feasibility of further expanding and fine-tuning CTR rates and eligibility. Expanding support where possible. This is obviously to mitigate the increase in council tax.
Okay, so fine-tuning to expand.
Fine-tuning and expanding CTR rates.
Could that
Wherever
be-
possible.
Yeah, exactly. It could be contradictory.
In terms of making sure that the criteria are defined in a way that people do not fall through the net.
So, sorry, that sounds like a new recommendation. It's so fine tuning the parameters by. I'm just not clear. If you could clarify that.
Yes, so in particular, where there are clear cases for, under the existing rules, for council tax reduction, that the criteria and the definition is fine-tuned so that nobody who is eligible falls through the net. And of course, where people are not eligible under existing rules, they would not receive CTR. That's one point. And further expanding means wherever possible, looking at expanding support to new groups of vulnerable people.
Councillor Roberts.
As far as I'm aware, this is an ongoing task that the council undertakes and is still looking at how they can bring people in. What I don't understand is, so you want to expand it. Is there a particular group that you think are not covered by it, or is it a general expansion?
Sorry, it's a general suggestion to review, investigate the feasibility of further expanding it, just to mitigate the impact on the council tax increases, so that we make sure that nobody is experiencing undue hardship as a result of the council tax increases. We have not looked into any particular group of vulnerable people. That should be task of the investigation. And it may well be that the investigation comes back and says, we are doing all we can and we cannot identify any further groups, which, you know, it would be great, but we want to make sure that this work is undertaking to make sure that we are giving people support where due.
Councillor Altry.
I think I understand the principle of what we're trying to achieve here, which is just to make sure no one falls through the net of receiving the support that they need. From my perspective, it sounds like this is a communication tool that we just need to deploy in, which may already be in the process in terms of the comms that will go out to residents, and ensuring that every single resident is aware of the support that is available, and from that, we're therefore covering the point that I think you're trying to make, which is ensuring that all residents know, and whoever wants to therefore apply for that support can apply for it without being left behind. But it strikes me as this being a mechanism that needs to be used via our communication channels as opposed to something else. But I might be missing the point.
I mean, I don't see the problem in reviewing it to ensure. I don't think that's a problem, but I don't think it's evidence-based. So if it's not evidence-based, then we don't know if there's a problem there or not. So I'll bring the director in.
So I guess if we reflect on what we discussed yesterday around some of our cost of living support, council tax localisation forms a part of that, Chair. And I guess we spoke around residents who find it difficult to meet their council tax liabilities often find challenges in meeting other household bills. So we spoke to some extent around how we are sort of consolidating our cost of living support to help with identification of social tariffs on utility bills, on water bills and the such like, how we sort of engage at an early stage around rent arrears and the such like. So I think taking the spirit of what the councillor said around building that into our cost of living support and then building Councillor's point around how we communicate that to, I guess, targeted residents might be how I sort of translate that into something workable that makes an impactful difference.
Okay, thank you.
Just in response to Councillor, okay, so it's meant to go beyond the existing policy and looking at whether, on the basis of evidence, of an investigation and of the evidence that we see today, whether there is scope to A, expand, and B, fine-tune the existing policy. So it's not just a communication issue, but of course communication is important as well, so that we make sure that people make use of the existing reduction schemes.
But I think we're doing everything within the bounds of the law now anyway in relation to that. I mean, that's why I say it's not evidence, what you're saying. I think we're doing as much as we possibly can do at this moment in time. Clive, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, any change to our council tax localisation requires statutory consultation, which now we won't be able to complete in advance of the April 2026 budget. Obviously, we spoke yesterday around some of the wider challenges we've got going forward. So if there was a need for the committee to us to look at sort of our cost of living activities in the broadest sense during the course of the next financial year, that will be part of our work plan in any case.
Yeah, I think we can sort of underscore that, and with the points that you've made, is that, but that we have this review over the next 12 months. We can't impact on the present council tax this year, so it'll have to be something that will go into next year's process. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Roberts.
Can we go back to the temporary accommodation one? I didn't quite get all.
I just want to finish with
Oh, right, sorry. Yep, thank you.
Sorry, yeah. Councillor Von Wieser's just moved 4 other recommendations on top of the ones that were circulated to members. Would you just want to read those out for Councillor Johnson's benefit?
Yes, so you want me to read all of them out again? I'm happy to.
Well, just for her benefit. No,
Okay, so number one, further to discussions yesterday on council tax increases impacting the cost of living, OSC recommends Southwark investigate the feasibility of further expanding and fine-tuning CTR rates and eligibility, expanding support where possible. We've just discussed. Number two, based on the equalities impact assessment on fees and charges, which notes the negative impact on equality and diversity, OSC believes that the Cabinet should review whether all the above inflation increases are necessary, even when they have a disproportionate effect on vulnerable groups and those with protected characteristics. Number three, as the Council relies more heavily on temporary accommodation, OSC recommends that the Council performs additional spot checks on all temporary accommodation to ensure that the Council is achieving value for money and provide appropriate accommodation. And number four, OSC suggests that the Council set aside funding in order to roll out local hubs or one-stop shops across the borough to allow residents to access Council services where they are and on their terms. This would provide some mitigation against the negative equalities impacts of the rise of Council services, as residents would be able to access support more quickly rather than waiting until the situation deteriorates.
Okay, and so we just discussed the first one of those, which was the reduction. Yeah, so we've agreed that there'll be a review over the next 12 months, taking those points on board. Similarly, before we get to temporary accommodation, I think with the equality one as well, over the fees and charges, it's something that we'd have to review over the next 12 months as well, I would have thought. It's not an immediate impact and change that we could make this year. So it's an important point, but I think we can do that over the next 12 months in terms of drilling down a bit more on where there's potential negative impact. Yeah? Does that agree? Okay, thank you. The third one, temporary accommodation. So, Councillor Roberts.
I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong, but did you say you want spot checks on all temporary accommodation?
As opposed to just a few, as is the case at present, I believe.
Because that would not make it spot checks.
Yeah, you're right. I take your point. Let's delete the word spot. So the point is that is there a system where we can actually check that all temporary accommodation is achieving value for money and appropriate, as we would do with other accommodation?
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Councillor Johnson.
Now, just mindful in terms of considering TA is already quite an expensive budget, to increase the number of spot checks would be, I think, increasing the budget for it, because we'd have to dedicate more of the time. Whilst I'm not disagreeing to having spot checks, I'm wondering, is there maybe a particular area of concern that we're more, is there like a particular type of TA that maybe is coming through, like a lot more out of borough type focus, because maybe that's more harder or more costly for our officers to do checks on at the moment, whereas I imagine in borough TA checks is probably more accessible given the location of our offices and probably wouldn't come at that much additional cost. So they might be more routine anyway, and is it maybe focusing on some of our outer borough TA to do more checks? Because through my anecdotal issues, a lot of it has been out of borough TA that I've had a lot more concerns with.
Absolutely. Councillor Otteray.
It sounds to me like this probably ought to be looked at in some detail by the Housing Scrutiny Commission, not least because the Good Landlord Plan, which was agreed by Cabinet earlier this year, that comprehensively goes through a targeted approach to ensuring that our properties are in a better state than they are now through various checks that are happening. So it's probably worth looking at the feasibility of it, number one. Number two, whether anything's already in train on that, which we could do via the Housing Scrutiny Commission, and then probably make a recommendation that is based on the evidence that's brought to us as a Housing Scrutiny Commission would seem like a logical next step.
Absolutely, and for the reason that Councillor Johnson said before, there's a revenue impact here, and that needs to be assessed because it's not been costed for, and therefore we need to see what the impact would be on the budget before it's agreed. I think, Councillor Roberts.
I was just going to say, we did have Councillor Dennis in front of us yesterday. I don't know, it could have been a question that she might have been able to give us more information on at that point when we were questioning them on their individual portfolios. I know that obviously where we're moving people onto temporary accommodation on our own estates, that our RSOs are doing a lot of that work. So there is checks going on, and I know this because of casework from my own ward. But I think that there is, forgive me because I do not know the details off the top of my head, but as I say, Councillor Dennis would have been able to give us more. There is a system that we have asked all temporary accommodation providers to sign up to, which I think is called DPS or something. So I don't know if that's helpful information.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Yeah, just to clarify, so the point of this recommendation is that there are checks rather than just assurances by providers. And the aim is twofold. One, it is of course to ensure that the accommodation is appropriate. I know we're moving away, and Councillor Dennis said yesterday we're moving away from B&Bs and all of this, but that doesn't mean that accommodation is appropriate, and even if it's temporary. And the second one, which is quite important, is that it's actually value for money. In other words, if the council doesn't overpay some, rogue private landlords, even though they may have filled in some form, maybe checks can ultimately help also to save some of the exorbitant costs that we heard about yesterday of temporary accommodation.
Can you comment on any potential revenue implications?
Obviously there'll be a revenue implication of, our ability to then facilitate those kind of checks. I'd imagine the argument from yourself, Councillor, would be that the cost of those will be outweighed by the reduced cost in temporary accommodation. The reality, of course, temporary accommodation is our largest overspending area on the general fund side. It's subject to incredible scrutiny by myself and my own team within finance, and also housing officers from Equality of Life. The sad reality of life, given the stifling of demand and supply within the borough, is that if we do decline on the basis of value for money or any other thing, which may well be the right thing to do, another borough will come and take that slot in any case. It won't necessarily drive down cost, whilst accepting the principle, of course, that we are sort of laser focused in driving down cost where we can and ensuring that temporary accommodation provision is of suitably high standard accommodation. We have what we call a budget recovery board for temporary accommodation. Our largest cost on the value for money side of things will be nightly costs. We've driven those down by about 20% over the course of the last year. Work continues in that space, and there's still work for us to do. But the costs around temporary accommodation and the overspend are largely driven by increasing demand rather than supply challenges, exception of course landlords are leaving the market through changes through legislation that have happened over the last 2 to 3 years.
And isn't it the case, I don't know if you know, but isn't it the case that these properties, before we enter into any contract with them, they are visited by council officers?
Yeah, obviously our TA stock is a mix of our own provision, which goes through our own internal checks, and those that we procure sort of through the private market and the such like. Those will go through due diligence in any case before we let them to any family.
Fine. Okay. So we'll park that one. Okay, so the final one, the hubs. Again, I think there's revenue implications here. Perhaps you want to expand on how you envisage, are we looking at separate premises? Are we looking at shared premises? Are we looking at 2 people? Are we looking at 20 people? What services are going to be provided there?
If you permit me, Chair, I will provide you with those further details in writing. I don't know the exact details. This is a long-standing demand, not just by our group, but also by a lot of residents who cannot access, for one or another reason, mostly digital services that are centralized and are asking for some form of service that is more localized. But I can't give you, the exact costings. We have obviously costed it, and we will happily provide you with further information when we also send you the recommendations in writing, if that's okay.
Clive, have you any idea how much separate hubs will cost?
I mean, it wouldn't come cheap, would it? I guess if I could remind committee of the resident experience plan, which went to July Cabinet, might be in September, I'd have to check. That spoke around our ambition around sort of developing our libraries and our leisure centres and our other sort of public-facing buildings to where residents can go in and, if not receive services, certainly be helped in terms of whether it's digital self-service or being pointed in the right direction of how to access. So that might be a more cost-efficient way in which we have presence in local communities without the need to create new spaces.
Okay, great. Yes, I think we'll park that one for the time being. Okay. So going back to the recommendations that were circulated before, any comments? Sorry? No. No. So we locked those two back. Lock those two back, parking this one. Yes. Because what we said is this would be reviewed in 12 months. Next 12 months. So sorry. Yes. So are there any Yes, Councillor Von Wies.
Forgive me for not having been able to review these in the course of today, but could somebody expand on point number 3, the educational psychology team's savings delay? I fail to understand how that would work in practice.
It came out of the discussion that we had yesterday. The director and the cabinet member.
I think the plan was to reduce the team.
That's right.
By, I think, 2 members through natural attrition. But because they weren't able to put through all their plans, they decided to keep them on a bit longer, or they retired, but they had to continue to keep that team bigger than planned. I think that's what it was.
Councillor Leeming.
I'm interested in 3, 4 and 5, where it's about transformation. I think there's a thing, and I haven't worked out how to phrase this yet, about the conversation we had about risk yesterday and risk of procurement of. So I think there's a recommendation there of monitoring of risk of procurement, monitoring and reporting back. So I think that is something that we probably in OSC need to be kept abreast of. And then in the 4th point, I think that needs to be strengthened around improving resident user experience. I think that our digital transformation needs to be led by the resident needs, and that's a standard approach to digital projects where you consider the needs of the users first. So I think there needs to be something where in there maybe needs to be rewritten, and perhaps even I should do that, to start with transformation efficiency savings should be driven by improved resident experience.
Do you want to draft it and
I will.
redraft it?
Yes, I think I should do that.
Well, we'll agree in principle, subject to your amendment.
Good. Yeah.
Anything else?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Johnson?
I just in regards to the point about the improved risk on the cyber element, maybe we could pack out the first point on the second page it talks about cyber security there, so maybe addressing some of the risk there. Would that make that part a bit easier to broaden that as part of it, or no?
I mean, it's adjacent, definitely, yes.
Okay.
Perhaps there should be let me...
Think about it.
If I'm to draft it, does it need drafting tonight, now, or...
As soon as you possibly can.
Okay.
I think I had a bit of, in terms of a slight expansion, a bit on point 4, because it says the digital systems, and given we had quite a lengthy discussion yesterday at a certain point about AI, and obviously the other points about security risk, about is it worthwhile, there is maybe point 4 or maybe point 5, about specifying having more feedback about AI rollout and introduction across the council and how it is making those improvements and efficiencies where we want to see, but being quite clear that it's not about necessarily looking at reduction in numbers, it's about how we improve the output from staff and, you know, make work a bit easier where we can. Because I think some people might see it as a focus on trying to drive down costs, when actually it's about trying to make the services better.
Both, basically, yeah. Did you want to just pen something? Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Any other points anybody else wants to make on the recommendations? No? Okay. All right. What I suggest then is we come back to this once the amendments have been written, and then we can agree everything. Yeah? Is that okay? So, in the meantime, perhaps we'll come back to it after the next item. So item 4 is Southwark 2030 goal, well-run council. And I believe Rona's here. If you want to come forward, please. That'd be great. Thank you, Clive. Thank you very much. And if you just state your names and positions for the record, please, first.
Rona Cadenhead, Assistant Chief Executive, Strategy and Communities.
Mashimi Barger, Assistant Director, Strategy and Co-Design and Strategy and Communities.
Welcome, and over to you then.
Lovely. With your indulgence, Chair, we've got 2 reports on the CDP tonight. So if you don't mind, I'll make my comments about both of them at the same time, because they have significant crossover. Although I know that you asked for a very specific one with a deeper dive on the well-run council. So both reports represent CDP reporting on the specific commitments which are in the council delivery plan. And again, you know, we've got a specific report there with a bit more of a deeper dive on the well-run council, and that includes lots of information about the latest Residents' Insight survey. We're now 3 in, and so we've got a really good platform of understanding what our residents think about the council and the services that it provides. So both of these reports are on quarter 2, so that's till September 2025. There will undoubtedly be additional information, and you might have already seen things happening that are beyond the reporting there. Quarter 3 is underway, and we'd be really happy to bring that back perhaps in March, so you get that better kind of end of term roundup, and I'll come back to that a little bit as well. So this year, councillors will remember that we agreed a new council delivery plan last year. That was absolutely to round up the final year of the administration, but also to reflect the commitments that we'd made in the 2030 strategy. We've had a much sharper approach to how we've monitored performance this year, and so for the first 3 years of the council delivery plan, monitoring was very much based on commentary. And so, what people told us about things. This year we've tried to sharpen that considerably. So at the beginning of the year, officers who lead on the commitments have had to be really clear about what they expected to achieve in the quarter in terms of milestones, but also to be clear about what level of performance they expect to achieve, and that's what we've monitored against this year, which is a considerable change to the previous 3 years. That's then quality assured. within Mushimi's team who go back and make sure that that is right, that we sharpen up the monitoring and we sharpen up the narrative that we have. And then that goes through a process of wider quality assurance with cabinet members, portfolio leads meetings with their senior officers. It goes to one-to-ones with the leader and the chief executive, and it also goes to the council's leadership team meeting, which is the whole of cabinet and CMT together. And that, you know, it's taken exceptionally seriously, this performance reporting, and obviously ultimately comes to scrutiny for your oversight. So as I say, I think everyone would agree, hopefully, that we've made it a better, more efficient and useful process. That doesn't mean to say it's perfect. We know we've still got more work to do on ensuring that everyone is applying the red, amber, green ratings consistently. We have some people who are perhaps a little bit more positive, and we also have a lot of people who are hold themselves in very hard inquiry. And I know if Councillor Cryan was here, she has a real view on that and how we're reporting it. So we definitely need to sharpen that. Up a bit, but it's certainly moved on a lot. Again, the Residents' Insight Survey in the Well-Run Council reports, you know, we're very pleased with the results that we're seeing there. I think we can apply that across to the delivery of the commitments within the council delivery plan. There's very strong performance there, performance that we'd expect to see in the final year of administration. There's a couple of additional things that I just will finish up with. So we've also councillors who were on committee last year will remember we talked about having a different performance framework. So we're now in the third quarter of that. So we have something that we're calling the Chief Exec's Performance Dashboard. Again, I think, Chair, that might be something we can bring to you in March, and what that really focuses on is core performance of council services. Are we meeting our stated performance standards? Do we have issues within the delivery of services? And that again is very closely monitored through the quality assurance processes that I outlined a little bit earlier. And we are also going to do an annual report, which is an annual report of performance, but also a roundup. Obviously, the council delivery plan has been a four-year process, and we're going to do a roundup of the last 4 years. That again will go to Cabinet in March. Again, Chair, something that you might like to see here, and we'll make sure that we schedule in. So hopefully that's helpful. Obviously, it's performance reporting, and if we can't give you very detailed responses to some of them, we'll obviously come back and give you more information as needed.
That's great. Thank you very much. Did you want to add anything? No? Okay, great. Other questions? On either, we'll deal with the well-run council first of all. Is there any? Yes, Councillor von Friesen.
Yeah, thank you. So just two small questions regarding fly tipping, which is on page 7 of your report. So. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the fly tipping removal rate is getting any better. So I understand 28% of fly tipping is not being removed within the 24-hour target time, and also monthly fly tipping reports are up from 600 to around 800 from last year. So what's going wrong and what's being done about it? And then also, start problem here with the targets, because it looks like the target rates are now, the removal targets are now being changed from 24 to 48 hours, and for graffiti removal, actually they have multiplied by 6 to 7 times. So is that, I mean, obviously it gets easier to hit targets if we just sort of stretch the targets a little bit more, but is that the right way to go about this? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. On the fly tipping removal rate, I can say we don't have any contextual performance indicators from other local authorities, which I think might be quite helpful to provide just to understand our performance in context. And I'm happy to go back to the service to understand a little bit more information to kind of support understanding as to why that removal rate isn't increasing. as you've mentioned, monthly service requests have gone up. It might be that the service is also looking at other approaches, potentially looking at a more kind of enforcement-focused approach to dealing with fly tipping, as opposed to focusing on removal, or a combination of both things in tandem. So I'm really happy to go back to the service to understand that in some more depth. I did actually inquire with the service about the change of the metric around timescales from 24 to 48, and whether that might be because that brings us in line with how other local authorities monitor fly tipping removal. I haven't had any response from that, so I'm happy to follow that up as well to understand in some more depth. Obviously, this is what we've had reported into us, and really happy just to understand that in some deeper context, and whether that is in any part due to a strategic approach to dealing with fly tipping in the context of increased demand, and having to be able to meet that demand appropriately and in line with other local authorities' approaches.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that would be good, because clearly just stretching the target isn't really a great response to a trend that seems to be going in the wrong direction. And may I just one more on recycling performance. Now, that's also dropped, not by a lot, but from 36 to 34.4% over a quarter, apparently due to contamination issues. Can you just expand what is the problem here? And does it have to do anything with the introduction of the new food waste recycling? Does that cause a problem with contamination and therefore hinders recycling rather than helping it?
Yep. So at the end of quarter two, they were investigating that. So so the service assumption is that that's just a bit of an anomaly for one quarter, and actually we're quite confident that the performance is going to rebound in quarter three. They didn't think there were any underlying issues for that. They thought it was a blip, but they are investigating that, and that'll be closely monitored going forwards.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on that report? Yes. Yeah.
Can I just one more, if I may? Satisfaction rates of call centres. It says it remains committed to. Council remains committed to improvement. Could you elaborate what actually is the satisfaction rate of call centres? Sorry.
Is it page 8? Middle one.
Avoidable context, yes. CD reference in progress. That's page 8, CDP reference 1110.
Yeah, we don't have it here, but we'll get that number to you in terms of.
Paragraph.
So they check the satisfaction of the call after the call. So we'll get that rate for you.
Page 8.
If you have that would be great. Thank you very much. That's it.
Any points, questions on the delivery plan, please? Yes, Councillor Von Wiese.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just on the on the stations accessibility, Don't ask me now where exactly that is. And I put together. I know you would. I will give it to you in a second. So we had a meeting on this recently, and thank you to council staff for giving us a detailed breakdown. So Peckham Rye, Nunhead stations are mentioned as targets for accessibility. We do have 4 other. Sorry, where is this? Give me a second.
Do you know where it is in the report? Sorry?
Page 7?
7 of the report.
Yes.
I know it's in here somewhere.
Yes. Page 7, page 7, areas of continued focus near the top of the page.
Oh, sorry, it's
Exactly.
so the number of the reports pack. No.
Oh, sorry.
There's different numbers at the top and different numbers as well.
Page 17.
Yes.
So it's page 17.
Page 23 at the top. Page 23 at the top. Yes, yeah, it's here. That's what it is. 2005.
I know it was in there somewhere. Yes, exactly. There it is. So, number 17, goal 7, well-run council leading by example to deliver high-quality, accessible services that meets the needs for all residents. We found it. So, they are altogether 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stations in Southwark. So Peckham Rye, Nunhead are mentioned as targets for accessibility. We've seen those plans and they look great. North Dulwich, West Dulwich, and Elephant and Castle. And I'm not talking about the tube, I'm talking about the National Rail stations at Elephant and Castle, notably. What's happening? There are, as far as I know, no plans for disability
Hold on a
access.
second. At our last meeting, we looked at the Old Kent Road. We had the director and the lead officer, and they went through each of these stations and
Right.
provided a document as to reasons why.
Okay.
So we've already discussed this at length. So you're aware.
Why is it not
You've
in
been-
here?
You've been given the information before the last meeting.
But it is not it is not mentioned here at all.
So the reporting is on the specific commitments within the council delivery plan, and the specific commitments in the council delivery plan are those 2 stations. That's not the entirety of the work that the council does, but that's the reporting that we have today.
Okay.
Councillor Treat.
Thanks. There are not a number, but there are a few at-risk points in the performance, but it doesn't mention which bits of the council delivery plan are at risk specifically. Is there a reason?
So we tried to show them within the areas of continued focus. So we probably haven't used the word at risk specifically for them, but the bits highlighted in the areas of focus are the ones that are perhaps the performance isn't where we might want it to be at this stage in the process.
So, just to be clear, in the table where it says in progress, is different to areas of progress.
Yeah. So areas of progress. Sorry, we'll make this clear with a key next time. This is us too used to dealing with it. So areas of progress are the things where we've shown improvement in performance from the last quarter, or where there have been specific achievements or steps forward that the council has taken, both in the delivery of the CDP, but and also in kind of going above and beyond the delivery that's required. The areas of continued focus are the bits where there's real officer and political attention on making sure that there are improvements made, that we understand any problems, or that the pace of delivery is accelerated.
So which ones are at risk?
So
the commitment around turnaround of voids is one of the commitments that's at risk at the moment. You can see that we're not tracking to the targets for turnaround of major or minor voids at the moment. I do know that the service is working on a transformation programme around redesigning our processes around dealing with voids, but I only have the performance information on the delay around meeting our targets. So I know that there is work underway, but it's not as yet translating into meeting the targets that we're setting each quarter for turning around both types of voids.
Okay. Councillor Johnson, did you have a hand up? Yeah.
Kind of. So page 19 at the top, and it's talking about the goal 1, the decent homes for all people. So I can see you've got the target priority group focusing on rough sleepers, and then on the next point it sort of says, building on this, the Housing Needs Service have now launched a co-location of housing advice surgeries in family hubs with children's services. I suppose I just want to understand, so is that building on hubs we have for lone rough sleepers? Because I would imagine that the rough sleepers wouldn't be necessarily families or people with children. So just trying to, obviously you're building on it, but I suppose trying to understand what's there for the individuals who are rough sleeping to access services outside of being targeted.
So that's additional to the services that are already provided, and it's very much about the service focusing on growing needs. So again, we were talking earlier about the cost of living, the families in crisis, and various other things. So it's very much about the service trying to get ahead of the problems that are emerging. And so one of the performance indicators that the department looks at is how much have you prevented homelessness. So that's absolutely about going to where we know that people have those needs and where they have trusted service provision to begin with, and therefore feel comfortable having those conversations. So it's additional.
Can I just jump on that a bit quickly, referring back to one of the recommendations that came from Councillor von Wies. Obviously, where we've got those hubs, and you made the mention about expanding the hubs, I suppose we obviously have quite a lot. Do we, with those, little rewind. So obviously we're starting to look at improving the housing needs service within those family hubs to be more proactive rather than reactive. Are you sort of, is that rolling out across other services like financial services? Looking at you, like SEND advice and stuff like that, is all of those things more going to, rather than being this niche and one thing, of expanding those a bit more?
Yes, I mean, I don't have it within the reporting, but I do know that as part of the Children and Family Hubs reporting, they've really tried to make sure that through their needs assessment that the services that are provided in each hub are reflective of the community that live around them. And I know that there is a dedicated SEND-specific hub as well. Whispering in my ear. But yes, so I do know that the needs assessment was really attempting to make sure there was a localised approach to ensuring the offer of each family hub was tailored to the need that sat around that particular hub. So you had the offer kind of within walking distance of where you live.
Okay. Are there any other questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. Cheers. Huh?
If you've got recommendations from Councillor Johnson on
Yeah.
one from Clive as well.
Okay.
He's suggested some wording on
Okay.
the VCS.
Okay. We're going to go back to the proposed budget item, because I understand our amendments have been submitted, and we have three, one from Councillor Leeming, one from Councillor Johnson, one from Clive as well. So we'll
Just amendment.
yeah, amendment. Yeah. Okay. So we'll start with Councillor Leeming first.
So, Councillor Wingfield, I have emailed this to you and Amit, so it is slightly lengthy, so I'll read it slowly. My proposal is to strike out the 4th, 5th and 9th bullet points on the sheet in front of you and replace them with one substantive recommendation entitled Transformation and Efficiency Savings. One strong recommendation to prioritise cross-council transformation projects such as procurement of digital services and platforms and revisions to the use of council-owned properties to achieve the following aims. Improve resident experience and interaction with the council. Make it easier for council employees to do their jobs well. Achieve efficiencies and financial savings for the council. Enable different departments to collaborate more easily. Ensure that decisions are based on data and evidence. Address technical debt, obsolete systems and inefficient manual processes. 2. Ensure that transformation projects are based on robust business cases which follow the council's governance processes. 3. Ensure the council is keeping abreast of technological developments when procuring and deploying new digital platforms and services. 4. Monitor and report transformation. This is essentially the same as the fifth bullet point. Monitor and report transformation savings by providing a detailed update on the profiling and delivery of transformation savings, including confirmation of the revised timeline and assurance that the total savings target will be met within the MTFS. 5. Monitor and report risk related to procurement of digital platforms and services by providing a regular report to OSC. 6. Ensure that the council's investment in cybersecurity infrastructure and skills remains up to date to deal with developing threats. And 7. Continue to invest in digital skills for staff and residents.
Well, that seems pretty comprehensive, I think. We've got everything in there.
There are some slight typos in what you've been sent, so please feel free to edit the... yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Johnson?
Oh, I forgot what I said. It's not as interesting as your one. I just had the little bullet point to sort of add on to point 4, which I think your one probably encompasses quite well, because I said to include the monitoring of the increased use of AI across council departments and how efficiencies, service improvements are made seeking feedback from staff and residents, which I think your one probably addresses. It's just making sure that digital systems is very clearly inclusive of the introduction of AI.
I would have no problem incorporating parts of what Councillor Johnson has suggested. I think, actually, frankly, mentioning AI explicitly is probably a good thing.
That's what I'm thinking, just because some people think a digital service is a software upgrade in Excel rather than that. The only other question I wanted to ask about the point you said about decisions being made based on data and evidence, just because I think sometimes when we say data and evidence, it can sometimes be quite numbers based. Are we including evidence as being a bit broader in terms of the customer experience and feedback? It can be an ambiguous interpretation, and I think the feedback should be part of that evidence.
I mean, I think evidence encompasses qualitative as well as quantitative data. So, if you want to include qualitative and quantitative evidence, then yes, why not?
Okay, fair enough. I think we've got agreement there. Clive, did you want to add something?
Not sure I do, Chair. I mean, we can work with that one, councillors. I was just trying to help scrutiny officers with some wording, just to make sure the recommendations are impactful.
So, on the VCS, wasn't it?
Yeah. The voluntary community sector.
Where do you want to add that in then?
No, that was an amendment suggested by Clive to that particular recommendation on VCS.
So what? So where's the change?
This one, the change, review support instead of recommend considering increase support. So review support and funding for BCS, recognizing the value in delivering enhanced services.
Okay.
So just a pair of words.
Okay. So just on the support for voluntary and community sector, it will read review support and funding for the VCS, recognising their value in delivering enhanced services and mitigating demand on statutory services, consolidating VCS support and funding streams should realise improved outcomes for target groups. Does that make sense to everybody? Happy with that? Really good. Yep. Thank you. And we're right with the amendments from Councillor Johnson and Councillor Leeming. Great. Okay, that item?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you very much. Now, item 6, refugees, borough sanctuary. And we've got Stephen Douglas and Councillor Ali. So if you, just for the record, state your names and positions, please.
Hi there, I'm Councillor Jasmine Ali, Deputy Leader of the Council and Cabinet Lead for Children, Education and Refugees.
And I'm Stephen Douglas, Director of Stronger Neighbourhoods, and amongst other things, lead on support for refugees, asylum seekers and vulnerable migrants.
Thank you very much. Do you want to speak to this proposal? Yes, please.
Yes. I'll give a bit of context of where we are. I mean, my understanding was that you were looking at this area of work to do a finish and task group on it, and, you know, we welcome that. So the Borough Sanctuary work then, it's been over a year since we got Borough Sanctuary status, so which is great. We've delivered a number of programmes, you know, and still do for Afghans, Ukrainians, refugees. Borough Sanctuary over a year old. We're really proud of this work. We have done a number of things. We've strengthened partnerships across the VCS, legal advice sector and libraries and schools. You'll remember that Southwark was the first local authority to have schools of sanctuary and first of libraries of sanctuary. So that's really great, put us on the map. Delivered e-visa workshops and very practical and outreach support to transition to, you know, digital immigration system, huge piece of work. Established the Experts by Experience panel to put lived experience at the heart of service design. We've recruited specialist resettlement workers, established a housing surgery to address accommodation and welfare needs, and we've worked with the United St Saviour's to ensure that the funding that we get goes out to the voluntary sector, you know, more close to real time. I mean, previously it was felt that it was a bit bureaucratic, and obviously, you know, we have to go through, well, you have to go through processes to let go of money. And once I've rather foolishly tried to circumvent that, and it made it even longer, you know, I've tried to get leaders' action to get the money out into the VCS banks quicker. But anyway, so we basically managed to get United St Saviour's to run that. We've established a regular safeguarding and education board, which I chair. And so we're looking at education needs, so there's no children coming in without uniform or anything that they need. If there's a safeguarding issue, we're on top of that. I mean, it's interesting because some people now feel that there's too many meetings and everything, but actually, one thing that we can say, there might be a lot of meetings, but it's rare that people slip through our fingers. We've developed, you know, a real partnership, I believe. Obviously, when you bring a lot of different forces together, it's not, you know, people can be critical and there's a frisson. You know, we don't agree on everything, but nevertheless, the partnership is like a proper partnership, not where the council is the mothership and then all the voluntary sector is like the little satellites. It's not like that at all. And I think really, I mean, evidence of this is, you know, the reports, the sanctuary framework, you know, we all did that together. It was a joint forward. We basically put together a public affairs plan, which was on, you know, immigration issues, especially, you know, especially welcome. And then we've produced an annual report of the year. I think I've given these out before, so I didn't, you know, bring them again. I think really the timing of this work, you know, has been, you know, the stars and the moon, whatever the saying is, have aligned, really. I mean, because this is very pressured, and not least for people in Southwark. You know, you've heard me say before, it's 40% of people in this borough were not born in the UK, and this obviously makes us quite a diverse borough. You know, so obviously that's to take into consideration. Immigration, you know, for some people, you know, seems to be more important than, you know, a national health service, which is, you know, needs a lot of love and anyway, attention. You know, for some people, they think that it's...
I know the
you
feeling, yeah.
You know, that it needs attention. We've seen in our own borough, you know, the far right, you know, come through our borough. And, you know, we've managed to, under the Borough of Sanctuary, we've positively, you know, encapsulated all that is good about Borough of Sanctuary. Myself and the leader, you know, put out a statement when, you know, the far right tried to demonstrate from here, you know, all very, very positive. And, you know, we basically put a statement about, you know, maybe a little bit overzealousness of our own Home Secretary. So I think really it's very positive, great, you know, we're very proud of it. I would say, you know, in some respects, but I would say this anyway, you know, that the team that's running it and everything, it's like, you know, the jewel in the crown, really. So, you know, lots to say, lots more to say, but in the interest of time, I'll stop. But, you know, what a great piece of work for Southwark. What a great piece of work for Scrutiny to scrutinise and, you know, put it out there.
Good. We will, don't worry. So the proposal is that we set up a task and finish group, which obviously will be proportional across the council, but obviously given the time that we are in the electoral cycle, this will be something that will be taken forward in the new administration rather than being set up this evening. I presume, because I just noticed that on one of our previous reports, item 4 on a well-run council, I think is page 6 on that. It sort of itemises really a little of what you just said, but also I guess it's almost like the you know, the basis on which the task and finish group would, the grounds on which they would sort of carry out their work. Was that a fair reflection?
Yeah, I think that's a fair reflection, although I think we've surpassed that. You know, that feels out of date now. I think,
Sure,
you know, we've done
sure.
other things, haven't we, like especially the safeguarding, the education work and everything, and the, you know, moving the service. By nature, it's a bit hand to mouth. But obviously, you know, we're getting in front of things, issues, and making sure people don't slip through our fingers. So I think, in a way, that's right, but I think it's a little bit outdated, and we can certainly help bring it up to speed.
Okay. And I mean, obviously, we've been talking about the council's budget and everything. So what's the budget for this year and projected for next?
The activity that's described here is all covered by central government grants. So we're not the only bit that we're not specifically funded for, which doesn't sit within Sanctuary, is the services we provide to people with no recourse to public funds. But that's a separate issue, and is support that we're providing through specific legal duties on the council. So this is all externally funded effectively.
That's good news. And what's the figure on the no recourse to public funds then this last year?
The expenditure, there was a significant overspend because of increased, partly cost of living pressures, cost of accommodation, that sort of thing. In terms of numbers of people supported, it's currently around 300 supported with no recourse to public funds, and that's a mix of children and families and adults with care needs. The expenditure was last year between 8 and 9 million.
And forecasting £1 million overspend.
Yeah.
Forecasting £1 million overspend.
Sure. And I mean, when you talk of that figure, that's not the money that goes in their pockets, obviously. I mean, that's the whole sort of supportive framework, administration, governance and everything else.
Yeah, there's a big team.
Yes,
you know.
yeah, no, absolutely. No, I don't want, for the reasons you stated earlier, I don't want people running away thinking we were giving millions directive. Absolutely. Councillor Johnson.
It's just a quick question. You mentioned, is it refugee specialists as part of the team? So what type of stuff do they do? Is it just like counselling or just directing people for support or?
It's all sorts. It's a fairly comprehensive offer of wraparound support. They'll point people at language skills. I mean, some of this is about preparing people for integration and settlement, housing. It might be welfare support. It might be how to register with a GP, how to set up a bank account. That's some very practical stuff as well. So it's quite a wide range of things.
Okay, I was just thinking, because you mentioned about the safeguarding element and that work there. So I suppose, does MASH reach out to them a lot in terms of the stuff that they do in identifying where there's certain issues and then supporting the families?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it came from the voluntary sector, that they were concerned about some of the cases and obviously, the way that people come and what the impact on, the children. And we reached out to the chair of the the independent chair of the safeguarding board, and we spoke to her about it. We were thinking about how you would put that together, and in the end we did our own, but basically, so I chaired it, not the independent chair, and then everybody comes to that. So basically unaccompanied, Helen, who runs the unaccompanied asylum seeking children or children in care team, she comes along, and we've got early help there. They're really fantastic, Councillor Johnson. If there's an issue that comes up, so the voluntary sector come and they come up with the issue and the name, and then before you know it, it's really solved, and it's really solved very, very quickly. I mean, it's interesting, I will say, because obviously, I did say before that where you've got a number of, partners, you can do great work, but obviously, sometimes people say, at first they were saying, we need to safeguard, we need to get education, we need to sort all of this out. And obviously we did that, and bureaucracies being what they are, they're regular in the calendar and everything. And then some people in the voluntary sector, I'll save their blushes, were like, it's a bit repetitive and it's a bit vague. But actually, it's working, because you can really get people support quite quickly.
Councillor Von Wiese.
Thank you, and this topic very close to my heart, and I'm very proud that we live in a borough of sanctuary. I was just wondering, and I don't want to be doomsayer here, but how do we manage to future-proof some of these, not only the voluntary sector organizations, the work that they do in terms of future budgets, but also our own involvement against any change in either central or local government that would make situations for refugees and asylum seekers worse. Hoping this will never happen, but is there anything that we can do now in order to ensure the long-term survival of our borough of sanctuary and of those very valuable projects?
Thank you for that question. I mean, I think we're doing it. I mean, basically, we are a borough of sanctuary. We're part of a network of the borough of sanctuary. The cities of sanctuary. I'm on the steering group of that. Basically, we're all working together. The network works together. As soon as we heard, basically that maybe the Home Secretary was thinking about making it a little bit more difficult, basically, we were on it. We've got a WhatsApp group that knits together, all the leads together at policy level as well. We've got London councils. We've got basically the leader of Waltham Forest leading that work. And we are, we are well networked and, doing all we can, hence the number of statements that you saw. So we're living that. We're future-proofing it, and basically that's the way to do it. Really, we've got this powerful network. It's formidable, and my goodness me, we are. We've declared our principles. Everybody welcome here, and we'll adhere to that. I think it speaks for itself. But I can assure you, that there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. Before all of these things come out, pretty much in real time.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any more questions? No? Well, thank you both for your presentation and for all the contribution to answering the questions.
You'll be doing this in the new year then? So, sorry, in the
next cycle.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
awesome.
Yes,
That'd be great
yes,
to see it.
yes.
Thank you.
We can do it at the mayor making if you want. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Good night. Okay, so we just got one more item, which is item 7. The work programme is to note, because obviously our next meeting's coming up in March. Okay, and thank you all for coming. And good night. Thank you.